Let's see. So how many years were you just a dabbler? So that might be an embarrassing question for some, but yeah, I mean, I can tell you for me, I spent like all the way up until the age of 22 or so, just kind of getting my feet wet and not really doing anything, and very nervously writing, and then thinking, no, nobody will ever want to read that. And so, I mean, I know for a lot of writers that process can go on for years. Like I know some writers that don't get serious until they're in their 50s or 60s, and they spend their entire life just dabbling and hoping that, or just, I guess, in the back of their minds thinking, nobody will ever read this, and then something clicks, and they decide to go ahead and do it. So for each of you, I mean, how long was that process? Like, so for John?
Gosh. I was probably a dabbler for maybe 10 years or so. I mean, for this group, I got kind of a late start at the age of 13 or so. And I wrote through high school. I actually wrote a couple of plays in high school and strong-armed my friends into performing them. But then when I started grad school around 23, 24, I kind of tapered off. That's not so much because I didn't have the time, but that all of my time spent writing gave me a lot of guilt. It's like, oh, I should be working on my research instead, and so that kind of tapered off. Didn't pick it back up until I was 30, so I guess maybe 10 years of dabbling and then letting it sit dormant for 7.
Possibly I'm still dabbling. I'm not really sure. The other option is that I never dabbled because I have lived my entire life in a perpetual state of delusion about my abilities. So I was pretty sure that I was going to get published when I was like 9 or 10. Like I had this whole plan when I was 11 that I'd finish the novel by 12. I figured my birthday was a good deadline, and clearly it would be published and I would be rich and famous by like 13. And I figured by 15 they'd have a movie out. So really, it wasn't dabbling so much as just being deluded and then disappointing myself by realizing that, in fact, reality doesn't actually work that way.
Stupid reality.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we're writers, right?
Exactly.
There's a Canadian writer. His name is Gordon Corman, and his first book was published, I believe, when he was 15, and it was a project he'd done for grade 9 English class or something. And so I always thought once I reached 16, I was too old to get published because you had to be like Gordon Corman to make a splash in publishing. So, yeah, I guess I'd passed my sell-by date by the time I turned 16. I hope that's not true. But like you know, I plan to have everything published. So I'm actually going to go with the thought that I never actually dabbled. Well, I shouldn't say that maybe. When I was in elementary school, junior high, but I always had the plan of working towards getting published, though I had no idea how to go about doing that. When I was in elementary school, I mean, I wrote 2-page novels that were illustrated by me, which I must say I'm not an illustrator. Stick figures are pitiful, so but I do them. But junior high, my friends and I, we would sit in the hallway and in the back room of the library writing, mostly fan fiction. Though even for myself back then, I was trying to expand my stuff into my own world, which they didn't always look on quite favorably. So, but I had no idea how to go about doing it. In grade 11, for grade 11, I actually got into the creative writing class in high school, but I ended up switching schools, and it was something I regretted for years, because this class that I could have gotten into was going to tell us, you know, we're going to write short stories, we're going to learn different parts about writing, but also how to get stuff published. And I thought there was like this secret marketplace that only my teacher knew about. And it was not possible that when you open up a magazine, it has on the front cover, send your submissions to, because that would just be too obvious. Because then everybody would send it to, and where's the secret society in that? So even then, you know, I joined the Manitoba Writers Guild when I was in first year university, so I was 18. The novel I wrote when I was a closet writer, I sent that off. I, found out how to send it to the publishers, how to do a synopsis and a query letter and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not sure, other than elementary school, junior high, maybe high school I'd consider that maybe dabbling, learning, but I always had the goal that I was going to try for publication. I just unfortunately listened to the naysayers for too long.
That's understandable. There are a lot of naysayers. So, Vidya, how long? Or are you still dabbling?
I don't think I'm still dabbling anymore. Maybe. I don't know. By some people's definition, I probably am. And, I'm not necessarily writing every single day, and I haven't really sent anything out yet because I'm not really satisfied with my work yet. I don't know. It depends on whether or not you count school assignments. I'd say about 3 or 4 years not counting school assignments, and then for about as long as I can remember, I've done a lot of fiction writing throughout grade school and everything, and I can say I had a lot of fun doing it. I didn't do it really outside of that, but I looked forward to those assignments. I managed to stretch it was supposed to be a semester-long assignment, doing a rough draft, a couple of edits, and a final draft on a short story for my 6th grade class, and it ended up being, what I considered, it was about 40 pages. I don't know what the word count was, but it was longer than anybody else wrote, and I spent the entire semester writing it. So my first draft was my final draft, and I actually think I got out of a lot of other stuff just because I was always on the computer working on it for almost the entire semester.
Well, I have to say, I took writing very seriously when I was 11 or 12 years old, and I kind of went through a similar thing as Kefi and some of the rest of you, where I was like, well, of course I'll be a bestseller by the time I'm 12, by the time I'm 13. And I did write a novel. I wrote 2 novels, and my mother sent them to a publisher at Random House. And that's when I got this horrible rejection because she thought I was an adult. And
I was wondering, because I'm thinking, what a mean publisher to send a nasty rejection to a 12-year-old.
But it must have looked really professional if they made that mistake, right?
Yeah.
Oh, no. This is just things it sounds like a mentally retarded person wrote this.
Oh. No. Even if she thought you were an adult, that's just wow.
Yeah.
Well, she apologized. She wrote a really profusely apologetic letter after that. But it was kind of too late. I was 12, and I was like, no, I suck. Nothing can ever. I will never be able to overcome this horrible problem. I obviously have no talent whatsoever. I'm mentally retarded. That's it.
Oh.
And, yeah, and that's kind of funny looking back now because it's that affected me all the way until college, which is pretty sad that I let it affect me for that long. So, I don't know. I do kind of wonder, if things had been different. What if I had gotten published at 12? I might have been, a little piece of crap. I might have been one of those horrible, arrogant authors that's yeah, I'm the next Tolkien. I'm 14, but not at all. I could have become that, so. I don't know. I mean, it is kind of funny, though. And, and it did. I just wonder how many other people have gone through something like that, where, some kind of really discouraging something was told to them, and they decided they can never take writing seriously after that for a long time.
Yeah.
I didn't ever have anything like that, and wow, that editor, that's just such a horrible rejection for anyone. I don't even know why she would have thought that was appropriate, but whatever. For me, it wasn't writing, but I actually decided I was a huge embarrassing failure when I was 7 because I was taking piano lessons, and when you take piano lessons as a 7-year-old, they tell you about Mozart. That's a good idea. And they're all like, yeah, he was writing, operas when he was 3. And I was just like, well, I'm already 7. And I can't even play Mary Had a Little Lamb. So I'm no point. Just give up now.
Yeah, that's true. Come to think of it, people do tell that to kids. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think I was supposed to be inspired, but
because we are all child geniuses just waiting to happen.
Then all of my mathematician friends hit that again in their mid-20s when they realize
Yeah, it's kind of frightening. I think a lot of us as novelists get intimidated when we see like a best-selling author who hit the bestseller list at the age of 22 or something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we all know those, and we're like, oh god, I'm like already 30-something or 40-something, and it's like, ooh, like. But then again, I mean, there's novelists that don't become bestsellers until they're in their 90s, so it's kind of a.
Yep.
Yeah.